Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 12th episode of the True Talks podcast. As with normal, the gameplay on the screen is in fact my own, and also it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, so you don't have to necessarily watch to understand. You can put this on in the background, put it on on the side, fall asleep to it, whatever you want to do. You don't have to watch, but it's there if you would like something to look at while you listen. And also the age rating of these is hovering around a low to mid PG-13 rating-ish. That's what I'm trying to stick to. Today, I am going to be talking about really more teaching stuff, but not a whole lot. There hasn't been that much of note that has happened for current event stuff, but I'll go into that later. The main topics for today are topic A is what my go-tos on YouTube have been lately, just because I think it's interesting to talk about from the perspective of someone. I wouldn't call myself a YouTuber anymore by any means. I upload one of these once a week, but to kind of get that perspective of what I watch, I felt like it'd be interesting. Topic B is about Tales of Vesperia. I'm currently playing it, and I'm about halfway through. I kind of there's a playlist on YouTube of a long play of it, and I kind of use that to judge how far I am in the game, and the point that I'm at in the game, I am about halfway through the playlist, so I assume I'm about halfway through the game. I do need to stop doing that, though, because I just got spoiled on, a decently major story thing, and it upset me greatly, but it's whatever. I'm not that involved with the plot, but we'll talk about that when we get there. The special segment today is going to be me talking about, as a music writer myself, how difficult it actually is to write, beginning band music, and even, up to, middle school level music, actually how difficult that is and how much people take it for granted in reality. And then topic C, I'm going to be going in depth on why piano is kind of my instrument of choice. I'm not that good at it, but it's my favorite instrument to play in reality, and I'll kind of go in depth into why that is, even though it can be frustrating and it's hard for me to play anything moderately challenging because I'm not that good at it and I'm not very well practiced, but we'll talk about that when we get there. For current event stuff, I just ate out for the first time in since before I moved. So it's been a month since I've had something that wasn't just your average sandwich or can of soup or something like that. I've been eating on a pretty strict budget, so I decided to treat myself today and go to Subway, and I forgot how I had been going to Subway a decent amount before, because I used to go, when I used to have the board game sessions with my teacher friends back home, we used to go to Subway afterwards and kind of talk, because when we're playing a board game, it's we're mainly focused on that. If we have any side conversation things, we'll get distracted and it'll make it take even longer. But we would go to Subway afterwards sometimes, and I forgot just how ridiculously expensive it was. Even, before when I went, I used to, take coupons. I had a coupon book from the school that I student taught at that I would use at Subway to make it a little bit more affordable. But, I got a 6-inch meal, and it was $12 freaking dollars. That is actually ridiculous when I literally make my own sandwiches at home, and it probably costs me maybe $2 per sandwich, and I honestly probably get more content out of that sandwich than I do at Subway. They put such a measly amount of chicken on or it was cheese specifically. I wanted more cheese. I got the great garlic sandwich, and it says 2 times Monterey cheddar on the recipe, but he literally put one handful on it and sprinkled it on and was that's it. I'm can I know I could have asked for more cheese, but they probably would have upcharged me, and I didn't want to deal with that. So I was annoyed by that. because it's like I probably could have, like, the thing that makes the sandwich good is the fact that it's like rotisserie chicken and the garlic aioli is really good as well. Those are really the only two things that make it stand out above like a sandwich that I make at home. Like, there's bacon on it, but I could buy bacon if I really wanted to and cook it and put it on a sandwich, and it wouldn't cost me that much. But yeah, I figured I better treat myself since I've been hard at work the last few days. I had a party with the kids at the school, the high schoolers, on Monday this last week because we just finished the big busy homecoming week. I figured why not have like a little party type deal to relax a little bit after a really hard couple of weeks. Like, they worked really hard and the parade came together really well, so I wanted to reward them. But we specifically had like the snacks were about perfect, the amount of snacks that people brought, but people brought way too much like pop. So I ended up taking 3 2-liter, well, like 2.5 2-liter bottles home with me, like 1.5 of Coke and a full 2-liter of Sprite. And it's kind of thrown off my diet a little bit because I've been trying to stay away from pop because it's really easy for me to fall into like that addiction, like the habit of drinking pop with literally everything. And I would rather not do that like I used to, because I am trying to lose a little bit of weight. Yeah, so I'm stuck with, well, I drank the half 2-liter of Coke, but I still have a 2-liter of Sprite and a 2-liter of Coke to finish up as well. I've been kind of trying to stick with like Pure Leaf tea, even though really I looked at the sugar content on the Pure Leaf tea, and it's honestly worse. Well, it's not worse. It's about like comparable to a serving of pop. Like, a serving of the Pure Leaf tea has about the same amount of like added sugars as a 2-liter of pop. So it's like really doesn't make that much of a difference. I'm sure the tea is probably like better for you, but I don't know. I should just be drinking water. The issue is I don't have a lot of counter space, so I do have a Brita, like a water filter, but I literally have like no counter space to put dirty dishes, so my dirty dishes just overflow out of my sink, and I have literally no room to even put the Brita under the faucet to fill it up most of the time. And then, like, I do so much during the school day, like, I do so much running back and forth, like, actually actively doing stuff, and I don't drink water while I'm teaching because I don't have, like, a side table next to me. I'd have to put it, like, on the floor. But like, if I actually was able to drink as much water as I normally do, I'd probably go through my water bottle like 3 or 4 times a day, but it's just out of reach most of the time because I don't have a way to put it near me when I'm actively teaching or actively doing something. I used to be really good about drinking water, but I have not been lately. It's a bit of a disappointment. Yeah. Enough about my health facts. But to note, since I started teaching, I've actually lost 10 pounds. Like, probably not exactly healthily because, for the first 2 weeks of school, I didn't eat lunch. I only ate dinner because I just didn't have time during lunch. Now, the past couple of weeks, I've been going home and having a sandwich because I have like 25 minutes. Well, if I drive home, I usually have about 25 minutes to eat because I get done. It works perfectly because I get done at the elementary school working with the 5th graders at around like 12:20 every day. And then I can drive home and I have to be back at the high school for the 6th graders by 1 o'clock. Or more so by like 12:55 because I don't want to run the risk of going up there and like having them like beat me there or something. There have been a couple times where I've like been in a panic, like walking in the building because I'll get there and the 6th graders are finishing up with lunch usually when I get there because they have lunch right before they come to me. So I walk in the door that like leads through the commons, and normally they're like kind of done and crowding around the hallway in front of the stairs that lead up to the band room. And I think they started like not letting them do that. So there was one day when I walked in and there was no one like by the stairs anymore, and I was like, oh shit, did they already go up there? I had like a moment of panic, and then I like peered around the corner and they were all still in the commons eating. So it was a bit of a, it wasn't even like close time-wise. I just thought maybe they'd let them go up early or something that day. Like I'd gotten there with plenty of time to spare, but I've never actually been that close. Wednesdays I still can't eat because the schedule, they have early outs every Wednesday, and the way the schedule gets pushed back is there's way less time between 5th grade and 6th grade for me. Like, because the buildings run on kind of two different schedules completely, obviously. Like, I have 5th grade at the elementary and then 6th grade at the high school. 5th grade on Wednesdays gets done at noon, I think. But then 6th grade starts at 12:30. So I have like 15 minutes less between them than I normally do. And it just would make it so that I physically cannot eat. Like I'm a relatively slow eater. I don't like to shove my face full of food. I'd rather take my time and enjoy it a little bit instead of just swallowing an entire sandwich whole, basically. But yeah, I will admit that I am like a person who is definitely self-conscious about their weight. Like, you wouldn't know it because like I haven't really talked about this to very many people. Well, like literally I've talked about it to like 2 people ever. So this is the first some people might be hearing of it, but I'm a pretty slim person. But like it's just like that body image that isn't like, it's probably achievable for me, but it's like, I don't know. Like, I just suffer with, like, body image issues. Like, namely when, like, I'm, like, sitting down or laying down, and I can feel my stomach, like, kind of rolling in on itself. Like, I'm sure, like, pretty much anyone knows the feeling, because really, I'm a pretty slim dude, and that's the way it is for me. I'm guessing it's the way it is for almost everyone else. But like, I don't know. It felt like my scale that I bought for my apartment is like very in depth. It has like an app that it connects to on Bluetooth, and it tells me like my total fat content and like my muscle content and whatnot. And it like based on that, my minimum possible weight without like any body fat whatsoever is like 133 or something like that. So it's like, I shouldn't feel too bad about the fact that I'm only like 20 pounds over like the physical minimum is, and I should never hit that minimum, I guess. I didn't expect to ramble this much about my weight and my eating habits on this episode. I guess this is just a weird one. I'm in a quirky mood today, I guess. But yeah, I eat decently well. I probably don't get enough calories in a day just because I don't buy enough food. Like, I look at like I don't look that in depth to the nutritional facts on the stuff I eat, but I like to know how many calories I'm getting in a day, and I think I'm only getting like 1,500 like to 1,700 when I should be getting like 2,200 to 2,500. So I'm definitely under eating still, but nah, I don't know. I have enough energy to get me through the day. The first few weeks were rough, though. I noticed a definite dip in energy about halfway through the day, like when I should have been eating lunch. I was just dead for, like, high school, because high school is the last hour of the day. But anyways, what other things have I been doing this week? I've been getting a lot better at being able to relax. Like, I feel like my energy levels have been much more regulated now. Like, before in the past episodes, I've been talking about how I get home and I just crash. It hasn't necessarily been that way anymore. Like, I come home and I definitely do, like, just sit around and kind of play video games for the rest of the day, but it's like, I know that's my me time, really, because, like, I've been able to get on board with the fact that I'm going to just have me time where I can do whatever I really feel like doing, because I've already finished my commitments and my job for the day. So when I get home, I can just do what I want. And I've still been pretty strict on myself about the rule that I will not work on anything related to school while I'm home. And it's been paying dividends. Like, I feel a lot better about things lately. Like, in the beginning, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, like, feeling like I wasn't adequate for, like, what I was doing. Like, I didn't feel like I was doing a good job. But lately, I've been getting a lot of compliments from a lot of different people talking up how good the band has sounded at pep fests and pep bands and stuff. We haven't had a concert, but really the pep bands are where we're most exposed anyways. So I, like, as much as I hate to admit it, it's like it makes sense to focus heavily on the pep band side of things. But I'm really looking forward to the May concert specifically. Like, that, it sounds like a really long ways away, but, like, I've just been thinking about it a lot lately because it's the Pops concert. I have the big Chrono Trigger medley that I wrote that I'm gonna have high school play. With, like, I'm gonna edit a video together to hopefully get played in the background. I will admit it's not a very technologically advanced school, but I think, like, there's mobile smart boards. I'm guessing we can wheel one up behind us on, like, the stage or whatever, and it would probably work just fine. But I'm hoping that we can get to the point during that, like, preparing for that concert, that we can prepare, like, a matinee performance where we can actually show, like, the student body and all of the teachers everything that we'd been working on. I think it'd be really good, and really good for getting the word out there that this band has been working hard and taking things seriously, whereas it's like the band kind of hides in the shadows almost here, where it's like low-key, no one really knows what we do up in the band room, and it would be nice to have us be a little bit more exposed to the general student body. For recruitment purposes as well. But yeah, that's in the far future. I'm hoping that can happen. But for one, we want to make sure we are prepared on our music ahead of time for that. Like, we already have a pretty small amount of time to focus on that music for the final concert of the year. It'll be about 2 months, which I guess is about the same as every other concert. But, like, if we were to put on a matinee, it would be like the week before the actual final concert date, so it would be like 1 week less to prepare. But it also would be nice for us to, like, get to feel what the kinks are going to be in a performance, and then be able to work them out over the next week before the final actual concert. Like, when I was in high school, we used to have the indoor marching show. That was a big deal back there. And we always did a matinee performance where the elementary schools would come in and get to watch an abridged version of the show. And that was kind of when we would work out the kinks. Like, we'd figure out, like, that was our first full run of the entire thing with a live audience, so it was really nice to be able to kind of work out the kinks. I specifically remember my freshman year, we always used horn lights, which I wish I could find. I don't know, like, if they had them specifically made for my high school, but I've never been able to see, like, when I look up horn lights, nothing comes up that's, like, exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's like like, the things that come up are, like, like lamps that are in the shape of, like, a trumpet or something, or, like, basically the same thing that you top like Christmas trees with, like the strings of lights. But the things we used, we velcroed inside of our bells, and they reacted to the air that came through them and lit up like when we played a note, it would light up. And it was super cool, but I wish I knew where to get my hands on some of them for us, but who knows. Shoot, what else? Oh, yeah, what I was saying was during our freshman year, during the matinee performance, we were supposed to have our lights turned off during, like, we had our horn lights to use for the first song, and then we were supposed to turn them off. No, we had them on for the first and second song, and we were supposed to turn them off for the third song. And the first note of the song, I saw my horn light reflect off the person in front of me, so I had to like reach in while I was like marching and turn it off, because the light switches on those were like the actual like on-off switches were incredibly small, and you had to like, especially since we wore gloves for marching band too, you kind of had to feel around for them, and it was like a very small movement between being on and off, so it was hard to tell if you actually got it or not until it was too late, like it was for me there. But it was just a matinee. It's probably enough for current event stuff. I'll talk about what my go-tos on YouTube have been lately. Really, my main go-to is like people doing the like try not to laugh compilations. I pretty much just watch like funny compilations in reality at this point, because I don't know, it's just enjoyable being able to like, I guess, laugh. Like, that's pretty much what I do when I wake up in the morning. When I get up in the morning, I make sure I wake up with ample time to get out of bed and make a cup of coffee and sit in my like living room chair and watch like a 20-minute long like try not to laugh video, and not actually try not to laugh, but like just enjoy the funny memes, I guess. I don't know, there's something that's just satisfying about that type of content to me. Maybe it's just because my brain moves so quickly that it needs some ADHD type content where it like flips between things that quickly, like 10-second clips. Like I've just found, like, before when I used to watch them, I was like, these are all like really stupid, but now they like all make me laugh because my humor is, like, you could say my humor's gone down the toilet, but it's honestly just more fun to just let loose and laugh at things that might not even necessarily be the most funny things in the world. I enjoy watching those, and then I also, like, occasionally when I'm scrolling through my timeline, I'll get, like, a Game Grumps compilation. I'll throw it on. Sometimes it gets me nostalgic, because I don't really watch Game Grumps anymore, but I used to a lot in high school. And then Jerma compilations, those come up in my recommended a lot, and Jay Schlatt. So mainly it's just, like, funny clips that I like to watch on YouTube. And then occasionally I watch like a serious gaming video. Like, I'm still playing Donkey Kong Country 3 with my girlfriend. And like I said in previous podcasts, her and I kind of play through the levels for the first time. We beat the levels, and then I go back and get all the secrets that we missed. And when I get the secrets, I usually throw on Steven Plays. I throw on his playthrough of it and find them all through that, because he 103%ed it. That also brings me a lot of nostalgia, because again, that's something that I used to watch even like in junior high, was Steven Plays and like the Runaway Guys and that group. But not as much anymore, because I don't really watch serious gaming content as much. Like, it doesn't hold my attention for an entire series like it used to. Like, I used to really enjoy, like, playing Animal Crossing alongside Chugga Conroy for New Leaf, and stuff like that. And even watching like his Pokemon playthroughs where he had like the in-depth bios of every Pokemon was super cool and informative. But I don't know, it's just not my style of content anymore. Partially just because, like, it's very informational and very cool and well put together and well presented as well. But when I'm playing a game and I want to know that information, I just look it up and get a quick answer. And then I also occasionally watch, like, a challenge run, like a Nuzlocke, for example, or I watch a speed run. I've been watching Donkey Kong Country speedruns lately because it's super satisfying and fun to watch those games beaten fast. And that's usually what I turn on, like, to fall asleep to. Like, even though speedruns can be, like, very intense, that's usually what I end up falling asleep to, because if I try to fall asleep to, like, any other, like, compilation or something, the audio will randomly, like, peak with people, like, laughing or screaming or stuff like that, and I'd rather watch a more regulated, like, video where there's not going to be massive spikes in volume that are going to wake me up. I used to fall asleep to stuff like the Game Grumps and the Angry Video Game Nerd, and occasionally it would, like, wake me up in the middle of the, like, I'd hear, like, Aaron Hansen screaming or something, and I'd, like, jolt awake and then, like, have to quick turn my volume down a little bit and then fall back asleep. But yeah, I guess what I mainly watch on YouTube is those, like, I don't just watch the meme compilations. I mainly watch, like, the try not to laugh challenges where people are actively doing them, like Jimmy here and Stanley MOV. Those are the two big ones that I watch because they make consistently good content. And Jimmy, it's nice, like, he posts every Wednesday, so it's like, that's kind of my evening ritual on Wednesdays, is to watch his You Laugh, You Lose video before I go to bed. And it doesn't feel like Wednesday without it. It helps me kind of feel that it's the midweek. Like putting one of those videos on. I really should add a beverage. My throat's getting a little dry. I kind of noticed that when I, lately when I've been recording these episodes, it's like I talk for, like, it's like, you think about it, like, talking for an hour is, like, it puts a pretty big strain on your voice, to be honest. Like, it sounds, like, dumb, like, it's like, you should be able to talk for an hour without it being a struggle, and it's like, not really, like, there's no other situation where you are expected to talk for an hour straight. Well, I guess occasionally, like, when you're presenting something, or you're doing, like, a panel somewhere, then you're talking for, like, an hour straight, but you know what I mean. Generally speaking, you pretty much, there's not very many situations where you just talk for an hour straight without taking any sort of breather or anything. I kind of diverted from the subject. I guess this is just the crazy all over the place episode, but yeah, I guess I pretty much just watch, like, compilations in general, mainly the You Laugh, You Lose videos, but then, like, the Jerma, J-Schlatt, Game Grumps compilations, along with the occasional, like, Altrive or Alpharad Among Us videos, because those are still entertaining. I could not imagine, like, I guess that's why they hire a separate person to edit their videos, but, like, combing through, like, a 4 to 5 hour live stream or longer and, like, editing it down to, like, 20 minutes. It's like you have to pick, like, the best clips out of it, and kind of how do you judge what the best clips are. And then the best editors kind of add their own twists and turns to it as well that make it even more entertaining than just, because it's like, why would you not just put it on the live stream otherwise if the video wasn't, like, if the edit wasn't more entertaining. I don't know, people just, like, people dog on YouTubers quite a bit. It's gotten better, but it honestly is not as easy as it might seem. It's not simply you turn on a camera, you turn on a video game, and you automatically get viewers, and you automatically get popular on YouTube, or you... I don't know. The people who make it seem easy are really talented, because it's not. You don't just turn on a video, or turn on your camera, turn on your mic, and talk about whatever. It's like, you have to be entertaining enough for people to actually want to tune into your content, and for people to want to come back. And that's hard. Like, you think about it, like, you're streaming for like 5 hours minimum, probably. You stream for 5 hours, you have to be on it the entire 5 hours. Like, you can't just take, like, random periods where you're pretty much just focusing on the game and silent. Like, you have to be entertaining the entire time, because you never know when you're gonna get raided, or you're gonna have, like, someone got, like, recommended your video and they just happen to click on. Like, it's like, you pretty much have probably 20 to 30 seconds to capture someone's attention from the moment they click on your stream, and if you don't grab their attention fast enough, you won't even know they were there. They'll just click off and leave. It's harder than it seems, too. Like, you have to pretty much be constantly entertaining the entire stream, or you just constantly lose on opportunities like that. It's hard, and why I stopped taking it so seriously. Like, I just kind of stream more because I liked it, and it made my gaming feel like it had more of a purpose than just me sitting alone playing a video game. That was kind of how I rationalized, like, playing video games and making it feel a little more worthwhile. And I stopped really caring about the viewers or anything that much, because, or like even like the entertainment value, because it is so difficult to just be on an entire stream. That's why I liked streaming like JRPGs. Like, I remember, like, before, back when I was like a sophomore, I remember I literally said, like, one stream I would never stream a JRPG. And then, like, 2 or 3 streams later, I streamed Xenoblade 2 Torn of the Golden Country. And I really liked the way that worked for content, because it's pretty much, like, I play the game for a little chunk of the stream, but most of it is just me sitting back and reacting to cutscenes. And it made it a lot easier, because the cutscenes are engaging enough on their own. And then I just kind of add my reactions to it. And like, people say that reactions are like low budget content, or like easy content to do. It's not necessarily. Like, for one, you are like getting viewers off of someone else's content, like whether it be like you're watching a Nintendo Direct or you're watching someone's meme compilation. You're still like kind of profiting from what they did. However, at the same time, you can't just throw it on and say a few words to, like, quote, react to it and hope that it sticks. Like, there is a fine line you have to ride where you have to react but not over or underreact, because if you underreact, people will think you're lame. But if you overreact, people will think you're cringe. So you have to kind of ride that line between the two, and it makes, like, reaction videos legitimately a little bit difficult to like pull off. Like, Etika did it perfectly. Like, to bring someone up who, like, his reactions were, yes, a little over the top at times, but the way he did them was, like, unique for the time. Like, I don't think there were many people at that time who had, like, the full, like, heart rate monitor and stuff like that, sort of setup. I think he was one of the first to actually do that, but I don't remember, that was a while ago. But like, it really is hard to, you can't, like, people say reactions are easy content, but it's not necessarily. You can't just throw someone else's video on with your face in the background and expect to get viewers and have people be entertained by it. Like, you have to have a reaction to it. But I've kind of diverted away from the original topic here, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on from this. Now, Azurill Hatch Day. I don't even know that was happening on Pokemon Go right now. I just got a notification. But, Tales of Vesperia. It's really interesting because I really like the characters. Like, there's something that really draws me to the game, but I can't really pinpoint what. The story now is really capturing me, but before I wasn't that invested in the story. I was really invested in the characters, and what I really like is the amount of interaction that they have between each other. Like, it's something that you don't see a lot in, like, games. Like, there are some games that have a really good story, but the character development and relationships are kind of poor. It's something Xenoblade does very well as well, especially 2 and 3, where the character interactions are really, really well done. But, like, I had never played a Tales game before this, and, like, the little, what are they called? Like, where they have, like, the side conversations when you're out in the overworld, and you press, like, a button to watch them. Those are really, really nice, because it gives you just, like, regular conversations between the characters that really gives you a look into their personalities, and it's really interesting, like, having someone like Yuri paired with someone like Estelle, and even, like, Rita's interactions with Estelle and Rita's interactions with, like, Carol are really nice. I will be talking, like, spoilery stuff for, like, the mid-game, so if you actually plan on playing the game, I guess, listen at your own risk. But I also really like that Yuri, like, this is the reason why everyone does like Yuri as a protagonist, is because he's not perfect, and he goes off and, like, gets his hands dirty and murders people because he believes that that's the way of doing it. And it really complicates, like, his character a lot, which I really like. Like, it happens 2 times where with Rigo and Kumor, they do, like, really despicable things, but because of their status in the Empire, they cannot, like, people say they need to have their due process, but the due process is flawed because they work in the government and have, like, hands inside, on the inside, to prevent, like, to get them off pretty much scot-free for all of the crimes they committed. So Yuri decides to take matters into his own hands and kills them both in the middle of the night. And it just adds a super interesting twist on his character, where he's not, like, a goody-two-shoes protagonist. Like, he definitely has, like, flaws, and it really gets you to think, like, was what he did the right thing, or wasn't it? Because it was, like, and, like, the rivalry between him and Flynn is super interesting, too. And, like, the conversations they have with each other when they're, like, fighting in the Colosseum, and when they have, like, their talk by the lake after Flynn sees him kill Kumor. Like, it's just super interesting because they're literally foils of each other, like, they're opposites. But what brings them together is the fact that they both want to do the right thing, and they want the best for the world. They just, like, Yuri's grown impatient because he's realized that while he tries to fix things from the inside, like Flynn is trying to do, while he's trying to fix things from the inside, like Flynn is trying to do, like more people are going to get hurt and killed in the background, and it's a very slow and grueling process to get it done that way, whereas it's easier to just go and kill the bad people and make sure they can't continue to put harm on others. It's just really interesting because they both have good intentions behind what they're doing, but Flynn is basically your typical JRPG protagonist, where he's like all for the justice and that sort of thing, where Yuri is more like your Batman type. And like then later in the story, when Estelle overhears that he killed Cumore, like the way she reacts is super interesting, because she's also on like the sort of like Flynn's level, where she's more of a goody two-shoes type character. However, she has a lot of development, because in the beginning she's really naive and innocent, and then as she spends more time with this party, she begins to have her eyes opened on the way that the world is outside of the castle and how negative of an impact the Empire actually has on people. And like she grows to understand why Yuri felt it was necessary to kill both Rigo and Cumore, because they did bad things, and because the justice system was flawed, they were gonna literally not even get punished whatsoever for the bad things that they did. And then the sort of, like, I just got to this point in the story, but the, like, whole Judith and Rita thing is super interesting, because Judith rides like a monster around in the beginning of the story and is like destroying Blastia cores, which Rita then grows to despise her for, because Rita's someone who studies the Blastia and takes it very seriously. But then later on, Judith just shows up with Yuri, and Yuri's like, oh, I found this person over here. She's with us now. So you kind of have that tension where it's like the player and Yuri are the only people who know that Judith is this mysterious dragon rider that Rita hates. But Rita doesn't know that she's actually working with her. But then the moment that it finally gets revealed ends up feeling like the payoff was worth it, and it like feels like a massive deal in the story. Like, it's just, the characters in this game are like super well done, and kind of the mystery of Raven at this point too, because all the other characters really have like deep interactions with each other, and Raven is kind of like, they all call him Old Man, but he's kind of more of like the wise one of the group, like where he's not quite as young and energetic, but he knows more of the world than everyone else in the party. But then relating to Estelle's like sort of goody two-shoes personality, it just makes it all that much, like, all more painful when she accidentally kills Bellius instead of healing her, and like you can feel the pain that she goes through because she truly had good intentions in mind, and then she accidentally kills the person who was trying to help her. Like, that was a pretty big, like, dramatic shift in the story that I was not expecting whatsoever. But I really like it so far. Like I said, I'm only like halfway done. And for like the beginning, I was just really invested in the characters themselves, not so much the story. The story I couldn't really care less about. But the combat is super interesting too. Like, I never played a Tales game, but it turns like, it has like the typical like RPG like magic and item system, but the way it controls is a lot like a fighting game. So it just is super unique, and I've never played anything like it. It makes it feel like you have a lot more control over the combat as well. I don't really have too much else to say. I'm trying to think of if there are any loose ends. The one thing that I feel is a little lackluster in it is the overall world building. Like, it's like, I know like Dahngrest is the center kind of the guilds, and then Nordopolica is a super ancient city that was founded by Belius, the monster, where there's a coliseum and people fight monsters all the time for like show or whatever, and that's over by the desert. And then obviously, again, I know Dahngrest is this kind of the center of where the guilds are, but like I could name like a couple other towns off the top of my head, but like none of them really have any meaning specifically for me. Like, I don't really remember a whole lot of like the overall layout of like the map and the world and that sort of thing. But I am getting a lot more invested in the story itself rather than just being invested in the characters and wanting to see them interact with each other more like it was before. But I'm super excited to see where it goes and what sorts of twists and turns await me through the rest of the game. Maybe I'll give my full thoughts and review when I've finished it. Okay, the special segment, talking about the difficulty of writing a beginning band piece, mainly because I feel like this is something that's taken for granted, because it's like, oh, these pieces are so simple, it must have been easy to write, but it really isn't. As someone who writes myself, and someone who knows someone who also composes, my friend from high school is currently trying to write a piece for his junior high band, and he's been like sharing his struggles with it as well. Like, it's not as easy as it seems, because you pretty much have to physically limit yourself in what you can do. Like, it's like you can feel that a piece wants to go a certain way or do something, and then you realize, oh crap, what the piece wants to do and what where my creativity wants to take this, I can't go because it would make the piece too hard. Like, you really have to restrict yourself creatively, which is hard. Like, it's really hard to like write a piece that's lower than like a grade level 3. For those who don't know, like, just to give a brief overview, music in general is written on a grading scale from 0.5 to 5, and some go beyond 5, but 5 really is kind of the max, especially that you'd ever see at the high school level. I would never even have my kids play a grade 5 piece, I don't think. But that's beyond the point. But like, generally the pieces that I would write are probably hover around the upper 4 to lower 5 area, and that's kind of just where my brain is at when it comes to writing. It makes it really difficult. Like, dumbed down might not be the correct term, because that feels like it does like middle schoolers a disservice. It's not necessarily dumbing it down, it's just bringing it more to their level, because there's only so much, like, there's so much that a middle schooler can physically play, like range-wise especially. Like, you have to really consider like trumpet and like just brass ranges in general. And stuff like having the woodwinds play too high might be a bad idea as well, especially if you're writing for a younger group. Something that I've noticed that a few of flutes struggle with is like getting that octave switch. It's weird because some of them can play low just fine and some of them can play high just fine, but both of them like cannot do the other as effectively. But I guess it's kind of the same with brass with partials. Like some people just have the high partials in them, and then some people have to be taught that. And it's a difficult sensation to master. And then you have to consider just how much like new stuff you're introducing with a piece as well. Like it's like you almost have to think, like when you're creating like a piece that's grade level 2 or lower, you almost have to think more pedagogically about why you're writing it than like writing it with a specific like idea of something you're trying to convey in mind. Like, and what I mean by that, using big words here, is like you're writing the piece with the purpose to teach something, rather than writing a piece to be like, this piece describes, I don't know, a sunset, or this piece is supposed to sound like heroic, like a victory theme or something like that. Rather than thinking about it like that, it's like this piece is written to teach syncopation, because there's a lot of syncopated rhythms in it. And that's pretty much the central idea of the piece, is focusing on that syncopation. This piece is going to focus on, what's something else? Getting a handle on dynamic levels, maybe. Like that sort of thing. Or like another piece focusing on like staccato articulations. Like you write it more, you have to write more focused on what you want to teach with the piece and what you would want another teacher to be teaching with that piece, rather than writing it with full creative vision in mind. And it makes it much harder, like I said, because when you write music, you write kind of based on a flow. Like, I would say, like, as you write, when you're in the right mindset, things just kind of start falling into place. But you can't just let that happen as much when you're writing for a younger, more inexperienced ensemble. Like, you can't just let your creative thoughts free flow. And it makes it much more difficult to write a piece that can fit the age level that you're trying to fit. Like, if that makes sense. It's just an interesting thing that not a lot of people think about. Like, people are like people give beginning band composers kind of a lot of flack. Like, this piece is so boring. This piece sounds bad. It's almost like sometimes it's a miracle that they were able to come up with something that fits the age group. Like, in general, like, it's like you're not working with a lot of resources, especially when you're talking like a grade 0.5, which is like a 5th grade band level piece. Like, it's hard in general already to begin with to begin to write a piece that's like that level, because you're so restricted. Like, you pretty much are stuck in the key of B flat, using only 5 notes, no syncopation, and probably nothing shorter than an 8th note, if even 8th notes in the piece. And you have pretty much everyone, like almost everyone has to move at the same time as well. Like, you can't have a lot of separate parts. It's tough. But yeah, I just wanted to have that discussion just to kind of open the eyes of some people who might not have thought about that before. Oh, sorry, I don't know why I'm yawning so much this episode. My coffee must be wearing off or something. I actually think I'm gonna hit the pause button here so that I can grab a bit of water or something. It's a miracle I actually had enough water in my Brita to fill a glass. It was like just barely enough. But anyways, I'm gonna move on to the final topic of today, which is my piano playing and why I enjoy it so much despite not being that good at it. For one, it's like even when I have to play something incredibly slow, it's really satisfying to be able to make like your own music yourself. Like there's not a lot of instruments that can do that. It's pretty much just piano and guitar. You can like solo on other instruments, but in general, like most, like if you were to solo on saxophone or solo on trombone, you would want like some sort of accompaniment to go with it. You wouldn't just like solo on saxophone or solo on trombone just out at the park or something and put out a tip jar. It's like the accompaniment is as much a part of the performance as you are. Whereas with trombone, with piano, you accompany yourself, really. You are able to play both the melody and the harmonies and all of that. And it's super satisfying to be able to just create a full-sounding musical performance yourself. Like, I've been working really hard on the main theme from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on piano. And it's super hard, but it's super fun. Like, I remember when I learned Where We Used to Be from Xenoblade 2 on piano. It took me like a month. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. Like, I would spend an entire day practicing like 2 lines of the music over and over again, pretty much pulsing the 8th note. Like, I was literally going probably about 30 beats per minute. Like 70 clicks to the 8th note was usually what I'd start at. And I didn't think it was ever going to click until eventually I was just able to do it, and now it's so ingrained in my muscle memory that I can still play it decently well from memory. I mess up the ending because I haven't played it since my recital, really, but I pulled out the keyboard in our band room at the high school, and I've been practicing when there's no kids in there. And it's just super nice to be able to create that music again. I rewatched my recital from the spring, and it made me really miss how it felt to create music. Like, I am like conducting and teaching, and we're making music in the band room, but it's not like I'm doing any of it. Like, I'm teaching it, I'm showing them how to do it, but like, I just miss playing myself. So like, playing piano is just super rewarding because, like, yeah, you can pretty much make an entire full sounding piece yourself, and it's super fun. I've never been one who would just listen to classical piano on my own, and I really still don't. But I have my massive video game binder that I like to play out of every once in a while, but I still have my classical books that are fun to play in their own right, because it's like I'm still making music myself, which is super satisfying. And it's really therapeutic. I usually spend the time, because it's between 6th grade and high school band that I have an hour to myself there on most days, and I spend a lot of that time. Obviously, I spend a bit of time preparing for class, but then when I'm done getting everything in order, I sit at the piano and I play a little bit, and it's just really, like, it really is meditative, because it's like I'm kind of just in my own little world playing piano, and it's like, it's just something I myself get to enjoy, and it's like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like, it's like that scene in Soul, where he, like, is, like, playing, like, the piano, and it's like he comes to the realization that he can, like, he should embrace the smaller positives that he has throughout the day, and, like, not taking things for granted. Like, when he has that realization and he's, like, playing the piano. The best part of the movie, basically. It's like that when I play, and it's really, like, therapeutic, too. And just working on a piece makes me feel accomplished. Like, I can't play the Smash Bros. Main theme at full tempo. I'm still learning page 1. Like, I haven't even gotten through the first page yet, and I can't play it at full tempo, but I went from having to play it so incredibly slowly. Like, I always start out at 30 beats per minute. Like, I set my metronome to 60 and have it pulse the 8th note so that I can be very intentional and know exactly where my hands need to go at every interval. And once I play it, like, perfectly, like, 5 times or something like that, that's when I turn it up, like, by, like, 10 clicks. So then I'm at 70 BPM, but to the 8th note still. And I'm at the point now where I can play it at 50 BPM to the quarter note, so 100 for the 8th note. That's only half tempo, but it's still, like, I feel like I've accomplished something because I spent so much time working on specific sections to be able to play it at that speed. And there have been times when I really thought I wasn't going to be able to play a piece. Like, for my recital again, like back in the spring, Satoral March was probably the hardest thing that I had on piano. It wasn't very long, but it was just all octaves with, like, notes in the middle that would, like, fill out the sound. Like, occasionally there'd be, like, the 5 in the middle, or the 6 in the middle. Like, that sort of thing where I had to know exactly how, like, get that hand placement down, and it had me shifting all over the keyboard in both hands. Like, I'm used to, like, shifting around in my left hand a lot, but, like, when I have to shift in my right and left at the same time, it's really hard because it's, like, I then, like, when I was learning it, I had to play it so incredibly slowly and be, like, slowly look where my hands needed to go, move them there, and then play the note. It was difficult to get that one down, and I really thought I was going to have to cut it because I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And then suddenly, it's like, sometimes I spend, like, an entire weekend practicing. Like, when I practiced for my recital, I had, like, 2-hour practice sessions in the practice room on piano, and it felt like I was just hitting a brick wall sometimes, and then I would, like, go home for the day, come back the next day, and suddenly I could play it just fine. It's like, if you really work at it one day and really put yourself through the turmoil of not being able to do it, your hands, like getting a good night's sleep, like, after practicing that much is honestly, like, something that can't be overlooked. Like, if you're really struggling with, like, a passage of music, and this goes for any instrument, like, really practice it and embrace the difficulty, like, embrace the mistakes that you're having. Like, don't necessarily embrace the mistakes, but, like, really focus on slowing it down and being really intentional with it, and making sure you can play, like, you pick a tempo that you can play it perfectly at, and you do it, like, 7 times in a row. Then, when you go to sleep and you wake up the next day, all of that information will have been downloaded. Like, this can't be underestimated because I've fully experienced this, where I could not play something to save my life one day, and then went back home and went to bed for the night, and came back to the practice room the next day, and suddenly I could do it just fine. Like, sometimes it just takes that sleep to download what your muscles really need to be doing. I also really like piano just because of how versatile it is. Like, there are only certain pieces that will sound good playing them as a trombone solo. Like, I'm probably not gonna play, like... I'm trying to think of an example that wouldn't work very well. Every time I think of something, it, like, I think of it, like, the original, and then I think of what it would sound like as a trombone cover, and I'm like, huh, that would actually work. Like, the first two that came to mind were, like, Zelda's Lullaby and, Saria's song from Ocarina of Time, and then I thought about it for a second, and I was like, actually, that would kind of work. Something like... Again, like, Bloody Tears would probably work, honestly. I don't know, you know what I mean. Like, well, like, playing something like the Impact Site from Pikmin. Like, any Pikmin music in general probably is not gonna be... It's not gonna sound right on trombone. But pretty much any piece you can make a piano arrangement for, and you can make it sound good, and you can play, like, all of the parts pretty much on piano and really fill out the sound and make it not... Like, if I play something on trombone, it feels like something's missing a lot of the time. Whereas when you play it on piano, you can really capture all of the voices that are necessary to make that piece really what it is. And I have a lot of piano books. Like, I think I spent like $200 on one Amazon order, and I got like 3 packages of piano books, like both video game and classical books. I have definitely more video game music than classical. Like, I think I have 3 Final Fantasy books, 1 from 7, 1 like general one, and I think 1 from 10. I might have 1 from 8 too. I know I have a lot of Final Fantasy books. I have a Nier Automata book. I have Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger. I have those 2 books. A Zelda book. And then I have my own binder of, like, sheets that I've printed off from ninsheetmusic.net or whatever it is. I printed off, like, a crap ton of sheet music from that website and put it all in a massive binder. Like, I could not fit another sheet in there. That's how packed it is. Like, I would need another binder to get any more sheet music added to that collection. And then I have a separate binder that's just for Xenoblade music as well. And then I have like 2 classical books as well that are like intermediate level, like just random classical pieces. But, like, I kid you not, like, it's just so incredibly satisfying when it just clicks suddenly. Like, when I was practicing Where We Used to Be, I did not think I was going to be able to play it, and then the first time that I was able to just get the flow down, I honestly started, like, tearing up because it was so exciting and so satisfying to finally feel like I was making music instead of pounding away notes trying to make it happen. Like, it finally was just clicked and my hands moved like they were supposed to, and I was able to make music with it instead of just trying my best to play it. Like, it was just a really special moment. I highly recommend that really anyone try to learn piano and really put time into it. Like, I took lessons in 7th and 8th grade, and it was like beginner level lessons. I never really got past the beginner level, and I stopped. I put basically no more effort into it. And then suddenly, well, it was recommended that I take lessons in college while I had the chance. And our college professor for piano was really strict. The year that I took lessons for the first time was actually the first year he actually took just non-piano major students. It was the first year that he took, like, beginning students. And he was really strict. It always felt, like, really intimidating going in a lesson with him because he'd, like, be, like, sitting there peering over your shoulder and stop you every single time you made, like, a mistake. He'd be like, that wasn't quite right. And, like, start like leaning over you and writing on your music like what you messed up on. It was intimidating, but it was really good for me because it really pushed me to get pieces to a higher level. Like, at that point, I had played out of, like, beginner self-teaching adult piano books, basically, was all that I had played out of. And I was able to do that just fine, but I wasn't able to do, like, a consistent tempo, and I was pretty bad at just, like, flow and, like, musicality. And then after my first few lessons with him, that really started to get me to play faster. And I don't know why I had never done it before, but it got me to start practicing with I practice with a metronome every time now. I never practice without one. I always have a metronome running the entire time I practice until at the end of my practice, where I put everything that I've learned into practice and play what I have been practicing without a metronome. And I record myself as well to kind of track my progress. But then the summer after I took my first semester of piano lessons is where my mind was really opened up as to what I was actually able to do. Like, that was when I started to take it seriously. I practiced for like 2 to 3 hours a day. And it was all just like, I would turn the metronome on extremely slow. And this was advice that I had gotten from, like, I was just trying to cross the gap, like, of being able to play, like, past the beginner level. And I was looking up, like, on YouTube how to figure out, like, how to best, like, finger difficult passages and stuff like that. And all of pretty much, like, what the conclusion I came to was practice it, like, mind-numbingly slowly at first, and every piece you learn, it'll get easier. So that's what I started doing. That's when I started doing the thing where I start at like 60 clicks to the 8th note, like mind-numbingly slow, and play it perfectly 5 times. And then that's when I can bump it up. And then if I start making mistakes, I have to really focus on where I'm making the mistakes and play them over and over again. Like, there was one measure in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate theme that I was struggling with that I would mess up every single time. I upped the tempo, actually, and played those 2 measures alone 7 times in a row. And then I added back in everything else, so I was able to play it in context. And now I don't mess it up nearly as much as I used to. But what got me to be able to play the more difficult pieces is playing them extremely slowly. Like, Guardia Millennial Fair is a really complex piece from Chrono Trigger, and I played it, again, extremely slow when I first learned it, and now I can speed through it at full tempo, or even, like, faster, and it's super fun to play. But it was a grueling process to get to the point where I could actually play it. But I'm glad that I've done this, because what I used to do was I would play a piece extremely slow, practice it for like hours, and then at the end of my practice, I would record myself playing it. And that really helped me because I could see how much improvement I made just over a week, because it truly felt like I was just hitting a wall and I wasn't getting any better. But then when I was able to see the evidence that I was getting better, like through the video format, like I could watch a video from a week ago and the video from this week and be like, okay, that's vastly improved from before, and it's clear as day now because there's video evidence of it. Like, it makes it a lot more satisfying when you can physically track your progress like that. But yeah, I'm so incredibly glad that I decided to give it a second chance. I almost gave up on piano after that first semester because it was so boring and it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was just playing out of like the basic books as well. Like, it was like your beginner piano books where you're playing like Jingle Bells and stuff like that. But like now I'm to the point where I can learn a piece. It takes me a long time to get one down, but I can play something like Where We Used to Be, or Offseer from Xenoblade 3, or Before the Story from Deltarune. That's one that I really like to play. Don't Forget from Deltarune, another one I really like to play. Another fun one that I haven't shown off, because I can't play the full piece at full tempo, but Witchy World from Banjo-Tooie is a really fun one that I like to play sometimes. But I guess to summarize, it's just really fun and satisfying being like, this music is all me. Like, I don't have to rely on anyone else to make this. Like, I am just myself making this music happen, which is a super cool and super rewarding feeling. And that's why I would recommend anyone learn piano or guitar, because guitar, you can do that as well. I have tried to pick up guitar like 3 times and have quit every time. But both piano and guitar, you get that with, where you're making your own music yourself. Like, you are both the accompaniment and the main melody. And you don't need to get someone to play an accompaniment for you. It's super nice. But with that, I think I'm going to end this episode of the podcast. I hope you all have had a wonderful week, and the next week brings you great joy, and you just have a wonderful week ahead of you in general. I'll see you next time for lucky episode number 13. Peace out, everyone. I'll see you then.